Today's video is sponsored by the coldest water. More on that in just a moment. Yo, what is going on, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new deck profile video. A couple days ago, I put out a test hand video featuring my new experimental build of Mermail's Post Brothers of Legend. And I asked you guys in that video if you would be interested in seeing an updated profile, and a lot of you guys said you would be. So here I am delivering with that. We're going to do our quick deck profile like we normally do, and then afterwards we'll go into an in-depth card by card so I can explain all of my card choices and give a better understanding of how the actual deck works itself and how I've built it and all those other things. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy that. And really quickly before we go any further, I'd like to mention a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is the coldest water. If you guys want to get your hands on a bottle that can keep the water inside cold for up to 36 plus hours, or keep the water inside hot, whatever you got in there, tea, coffee, etc. If you want to be able to keep it hot for up to 12 plus hours, then look no further than the coldest water, guys. Their bottles are very, very high quality, insulated, reusable bottles. They come in all sorts of different colors and designs, as well as a bunch of different sizes as well to meet your varying hydration needs. I've been using this bottle for the better part of 3 months now, and I gotta say I have no complaints. Not only do I love the design, but nothing beats, being able to put cold water in here and it stays cold for a very, very long time. So if I leave it out overnight, I can wake up to some nice cold ice water. And let me tell you, that's a pretty good feeling, I gotta say. And yeah, if you guys want to support the channel and get something out of it in the process, like one of these really nice bottles, then you can do so by shopping using my affiliate link found in the description below. Anytime you guys shop and check out using that link, a small bit of the revenue from your purchase goes right back into the channel. Or you could simply use my discount code WK at checkout to save 10% off your entire order. And if you want to win one of their bottles, one of their 1 gallon bottles, they are having a giveaway right now at the link in the description. It should be the first link. If you want to enter to win one of those, definitely check that out. Win one of their really nice 1 gallon bottles that I think retails for about like $120 plus. So definitely something worth looking into. And yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. Today's sponsor, huge shout out to them for again sponsoring today's video. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the quick deck profile. Alright, so now we've gone through the quick deck profile. Now I'm going to go through the entire deck profile one more time and explain all of my card choices, at least the ones that I feel need explaining. So first and foremost, we have 3 copies of Mermail Abyss. Easily, still to this day, one of the best starters in the entire deck. Discard one other water monster to go ahead and special summon this card from the hand, and when you do, you get to add a level 4 or lower Mermail monster from your deck to your hand. So it searches out your Pike, searches out your Gund, some of your really good extenders, or in some cases good normal summons like Pike to do the anti-Nibiru combo that I showed off in that test hand video, which by the way, if you haven't seen that, I'll leave a link to it up in the top right. But yeah, Teus Dragoon still to this day is one of the best openings in the deck. And yeah, you definitely want to max out on 3 Teus. Also a card that is now searchable off of the new Ice Barrier trap. So now we get to technically play 6 copies of Teus, because if we see Foolish Burial Goods, we basically get to see Teus, which is really, really nice. So we definitely play 3 of those. Currently playing 1 Megalo. This card is very, very searchable via the Atlantean Dragoons, because obviously that searches us Sea Serpents. And this card does have a pretty hefty summoning requirement. We do need to discard 2 other waters to be able to summon it. But a lot of times in mid combo, it is a very, very good card to be able to search out, whether you're going to be able to overlay with it and for something like Gaios, or synchro with it for something like the Grand Duke if you are playing it. If you summon out a Minstrel off of a Halqifibrax, you can synchro into Grand Duke. Very, very good boss monster to be able to end on. And it also searches you out your Mizuchi, which, depending on which board you make, can make your board immune to things like Super Poly, Dark Ruler, Droplet, etc. Very, very strong card, and definitely, I would say at least a mandatory one of. Yes, you could play more, but for consistency's sake, I like only playing one because I only want to see the card when, you know, I want to go and search it out. Yes, drawing the card sometimes is nice, but seeing multiples is definitely not. Then moving forward, we have one Mermail Abyss Pike. When this card is normal or special summon, we can discard one water monster to the graveyard as cost, add a level 3 water monster from your deck to your hand. So this card is a search target off of Teus. Very, very good normal summon. If you open up per se like Teus Dragoons, you can go Teus bitch the Dragoons, Teus adds this, and Dragoons add Prince, and you can normal the Pike, ditch the Prince, summon out the Dragoons, and then obviously search something like a Gund, or you can even search a Minstrel off of the Pike, and then the Prince revives the Gund, obviously, or the Dragoons, and then you can make a rank 4 to go into Bahamut Shark and summon out Toad, I believe, on the 5th summon. So Pike, very, very good card to have in the deck. Lets you do some very, very nice anti-Nibiru lines to those hands you don't start with Minstrel, because odds are you're probably not going to see that card in every hand, right? So having a good anti-hand trap play that doesn't involve Minstrel is very, very nice. And Pike also can just be a good normal summon, a good discard outlet. Then we play the one Gund. If this card is discarded to the graveyard, we can reborn a Mermail monster in the grave except itself. So basically a searchable monster reborn, we just have to discard it, and luckily we have a lot of ways to do that, whether it be off of Pike, Teus, or the Megalo. Or you could even discard this off of something like Twin Twister and trigger it as well. So a one of Gund, and I believe that is it for all of the Mermail monsters. Very, very small and condensed Mermail lineup. And now we'll move on to our sort of Atlantean / Deep Sea engine. We have 3 copies of Deep Sea Diva. Hands down, to this day, one of the strongest, if not the strongest normal summon in the deck. It is very, very susceptible to hand traps, though. This card has the problem, unlike Prince, because Prince can actually send Dragoons for cost on summon. And then you still at least get a search off the Dragoons if they, you know, negate the Prince. But if they Gamma, Ash, you know, Valor, Imperm, the Diva, it just kind of sits there and does nothing and just acts as, you know, a body that doesn't really do anything. If anything, maybe you have an extender in hand to be able to link into like Hulk. So yeah, 3 Diva. Yes, it is fragile, but you know you do have to play it. It's that sort of high risk, high reward type normal summon, if you will. Then we play 3 copies of Atlantean Dragoons. This card is absolutely insane. It's been insane ever since it's been printed. If it is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, you can add a Sea Serpent monster from your deck to your hand, except itself, and that is not a once per turn. So you can resolve possibly all 3 of these in any given turn, all in that same turn, and, you know, just get a ton of searches in the process. You know, the more times you resolve this card, the more things you're doing. It gives you more gas to keep making better plays, searching out your Megalo, searching out your Lapis Dragon, searching out your Moulin Glacia, right? Very, very strong card. The only thing that sucks is when you don't have any more in deck to be able to resolve. That's why I did think about playing possibly Silent Sea Nettle. I just haven't had enough time to test it. The only thing I don't like about Sea Nettle is that, like, its graveyard effect is nice, but, like, figuring out a good way to actually implement the card in, like, any given board other than just using it as, like, link fodder. You know, I don't really see a good way to, like, take, like, proper use of the card and actually implement it into the deck. I mean, there definitely is room to play it in here, and that's something I think, like, I would recommend possibly trying. The only problem is it's not searchable, and it just, like, I don't just see it pairing super well with, like, a lot of the combos that are already in this particular deck. It's kind of like an Aqua Spirit, I guess, but, like, this build isn't, like, super oriented on rank 4s, so, like, that ends up being a bit of a confliction sometimes and just kind of awkwardly is used as just link fodder. Yes, you can synchro with it, Nixies with it, but, like, I'm just trying to think from, like, a generic standpoint. I don't really see it being super helpful a lot of the times, other than just the recycling effect, which is very, very good, don't get me wrong. But you could also just play Pot of Avarice as well, because that card is really good too. And very, very important for a deck like this that has a card within the main deck that you can go through very, very quickly that allows you to actually play the deck and gives you a grind game, because right now this deck does lack follow-up, it does lack grind game, and potentially a card like Avarice or Silent Sea Nettle could fix that. But next up we have 3 copies of Neptibus, the Atlantean Prince, the heart and soul of the deck. The card that got released way back in Breakers of Shadow that helped to actually revive this deck and bring it back from the depths. If it's not normal summon, if it's just on the field, because it's not an on summon effect. I wish it was sometimes. But if it's on the field, you can send an Atlantean from your deck to the graveyard to add an Atlantean from your deck to your hand that's not Prince. That comes up a lot. Very, very strong. In fact, you can dump a Dragoons to add a Dragoons, and then the Dragoons in the grave can search you a Lapis Dragon, a Glacia, a Megalo to keep going, and then you've got that Dragoons in hand as an extra discard as well. And if this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a Water Monster's effect, you can actually revive an Atlantean monster in the grave that is not Prince. So that can kind of come in clutch, as I talked about earlier, with that Pike play with the Teus and Dragoons. And then the last two Atlanteans that I'm playing are one Marksman and one Infantry. These cards have always found to be like very format dependent. When Marksman is sent to the graveyard to activate a Water Monster's effect, you can target a set card your opponent controls and destroy it. And Heavy Infantry does the opposite, where it targets a face-up card on the field and destroys it, one face-up card the opponent controls. So, like, depending on the format, depending on the matchup, one of these cards is going to probably be better than the other. Marksman tends to be, like, less favored just because there aren't too many decks that have, like, set cards. Although, like, I guess, you know, with decks like Sword Soul, that could be very, very prominent because you're hitting things like Blackout, or against, like, the, I mean, that's like one of the best examples I could give is, like, hitting Blackout against Sword Soul. So like Marksman just still tends to not always be the greatest. Its on-field effect is actually really nice. When it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can summon a level 4 or lower Atlantean Sea Serpent type monster from the deck, except itself, so that can summon out Prince in those hands where you need access to a good starter. Sometimes Marksman can get you there if you're going second. An Infantry can actually grant you an additional normal of a level 4 or lower Sea Serpent type monster, which is also really clutch because you can normal this and then normal Diva, or normal this and normal Prince, and get extra bodies on field to be able to synchro with, or link with, I guess. But yeah, mainly just in-engine core removal, which is really, really nice. And it also lets you resolve Prince late game too if you don't have like 2 Dragoons in the deck. If you have 1 Dragoons, you can still send a Dragoons to add a Marksman or an Infantry, and then add a Megalo or something else to be able to keep pushing into boards. And then next up we have 3 Deep Sea Minstrel. One of the better pieces of support this deck has gotten recently. Basically, discard this card and a water monster to look at your opponent's hand and banish 1 card from their hand face up until the end phase. So this basically lets us snipe a card out of our opponent's hand, preferably a hand trap, whatever hand trap that is going to impact us the most, whether it be a Nibiru, Imperm, you know, Gamma, whatever it may be, since hand traps are very popular right now. Not very good against board breaking cards, obviously, that's what Moulin Glacia is for, but you know, being able to potentially stop a hand trap and then also get the hand knowledge to help you better, you know, build your board to go against that particular deck. Very, very, very important card. The only thing is it's technically a -2. And if you're not discarding Dragoons, because Dragoons can help make up for that a little bit, but if you're just discarding it in any water, it is a -2. But I mean, you have to think about what you're getting from it at the end of the day. You're getting that hand knowledge. You're stopping and potentially turn-ending hand trap, right? It has another effect too that says if this card is special summoned, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, then target a level 4 or lower water monster in your graveyard except itself and place it on the top or bottom of the deck. Sometimes that does come up. You can revive this off Anemone and maybe potentially mill into things like Dragoons, Infantry, Marksman, Fishborg Launcher, Swap Frog, right? Just get free extenders in the graveyard, so don't forget that effect is there because it can be very important and very clutch in some hands, and also very pairs well with the Deep Sea Field spell, which I have uploaded builds in the past that have featured that engine, and I think I might go back to it once the Deep Sea level 5 Synchro is released, because I think it could be a much more promising build, because I'm a fan of the Deep Sea cards, like the Prima Donna and the Field Spell and everything. And then moving on, since this build is playing a lot of extenders and not many hand traps, not any hand traps whatsoever, we do have the Swap Frog package. I am pretty fond of this. I like this much better than the Undyne engine. I don't really think there's any reason to play the Undyne engine anymore. But this card can let you establish Toad. It can actually let you discard Gun to the graveyard to revive a Mermail monster, because this card says discard, interestingly enough. It's just a good water extender. Is an okay discard off of things like Megalo and Teus if you don't have optimal discards, or even off of Minstrel, because you can then later revive the Swap Frog off of something like Anemone, and then dump another body to the graveyard to use just as a link extender. Or if you have Swap on field, you can potentially synchro with it as well, which is really nice. And just having access to make Toad is also really, really strong. Very, very strong Omni Negate, probably one of the best ever, even. Then we have Moulin Glacia, the Elemental Lord. Very, very easy card to set up. If we have exactly 5 waters in the graveyard, we can special summon this card and rip 2 cards out of our opponent's hand at random. But if it leaves the field, we lose our next battle phase, so keep that in mind. But very, very easy card to set up nonetheless. In some very, very like suboptimal hands where you're not going to be able to put up a big board, you can at least still set up Moulin Glacia and still knock 2 cards out of their hand. And if they've hand trapped you prior to that, they just get to lose more cards on top of that. Then we have some sort of like brick / engine requirements. We have 1 Lapis Dragon. If this card is added from the deck to the hand, we can reveal it and special summon it. And if this card is added from the graveyard to the hand, we can reveal it and special summon it, but it gets banished when it leaves the field. So free tuner extender. You can grab this off the Dragoon, summon it either to synchro with, or most common usage of this is you're going to use it to make Halka Fiber Axe, which will summon out your next engine requirement, which is the Fishborg Launcher. Nice level 1 water tuner that can help us synchro into Dragite. Yeah, just one of the most common uses for it, or it's just link fodder at the end of the day. And if it's in the graveyard, you can actually go ahead and special summon it if all the monsters in your graveyard are water. And it cannot be used as synchro material for a synchro monster unless it's a water monster as well. And then it gets banished when it leaves the field also. Which I think I may have forgot about that in the test stand video, but it is what it is. It's been a little while since I've resolved the card. But now we're going to go into the spell lineup, and I do have some budget options here because I realize there are some expensive staples in the spell lineup, so we'll talk about those in a moment. Alright, so moving into the spells, we have to start 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet, just a very, very high impact going second card, and if I wasn't going to play any hand traps in this list, I wanted to play a going second card as powerful as something like Droplet. I realize this card is very expensive though, so budget options could be things like Impermanence, or a thing I would probably like a little bit better is Forbidden Chalice, good going first or second, and can be used while you are building your board or going into a board, unlike Imperm. And is also, I mean, technically they're both out once per turn, but you get what I'm saying. So Forbidden Chalice, very, very good budget replacement, or you could simply play hand traps, right? That's definitely something else you could do as well. And then moving on, we have 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. So with this, budget replacements could be things like the Silent Sea Nettle. You could play that as well. You could play Upstart Goblin. You could play Pot of Avarice. You could play hand traps. Really, whatever you want to play, completely up to you. But I like Prosperity in here because a lot of the given hands that we have, we're not going to be using certain parts of our extra deck based on what hands we have. So being able to dig 3 to 6 cards deep to find very, very important starters that we need to be even able to like play our deck is second to none. Like if we don't see like a Dragoons, if we don't see a Teus or any sort of normal summon, good normal summon, we're kind of just, dead in the water, pun intended. So yeah, Prosperity, very, very good card. You could also play Desires too. I forgot to mention Desires. Yes, there are some one-ofs in the deck that you could potentially banish, but they're not always super important. And a lot of times you could possibly search them out search them out before you resolve the Desires. So that's something else to keep in mind. Then I played 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Basically just send any spell or trap from your deck to the grave, obviously. And the reason I'm playing this is because of the Ice Barrier Trap, which says while it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card to send a level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then you can add 1 water monster from your graveyard to your hand, also until the end of your next turn after this effect resolves. You cannot special summon monsters except water monsters. So yeah, very, very good card. Lets you search out Teus. Yes, it does lock you into waters until the end of your next turn, but that oftentimes is never really a problem because we lock ourselves into waters most of the time anyways. So yeah, especially if it means we're getting to search something like Teus as well. And going back to Prosperity too, the hands where you are resolving the Ice Barrier and you are locking yourself out of waters until the end of your next turn, I don't know why it has to be until the next turn, but you cannot use the Hulk to go into the Formula, then into Satellite Warrior. So if you happen to see these 2 cards together and you're going to go that route with the Ice Barrier, banishing things like Formula and Satellite Warrior are just easy banishes at that point because you're just not going to be being able to summon them anyways on the next turn because of the Ice Barrier restriction. Then here we have a Mizuchi search target off of the Megalo. When a spell effect that was activated on your opponent's side of the field resolves, negate that effect, then send this card to the graveyard. Also gives Mermail monster 800 attack, so lets you easily OTK with Megalo by boosting it up to 3200, and again negates Super Polys, Dark Rulers, Droplets, even if they pitch a spell, because it negates the effect when that card resolves on the field. Those cards say they cannot be responded to. That's fine because we're not responding to the activation of the card. We're waiting until the card resolves to negate it. I know it's a little confusing, but that's just how the card works, and that's why it's so incredibly good. Then I have one Deep Sea Aria. This could also be anything really of your choosing. It could be Avarice, could be Called by the Grave, which going forward I might switch this for Called by, because like there are some hands that if you don't see Minstrel, you know, you're going to need to be able to play through hand traps, and Called by the Grave helps you do that. You can also play Crossout Designator as well. It's also technically a budget replacement for Prosperity, because it is a little bit cheaper. It's not, you know, super cheap, but it is cheaper. But this just lets us search any level 4 or lower water by banishing water from the grave. So it can get you to Diva, can get you to Prince. And then last but not least, we have the 2 copies of Ice Barrier for the traps. This card basically, like I already said, lets you search Teus, but it also has an on-field effect as well. It says when an attack is declared involving your opponent's monster, change that opponent's monster's attack to 0 and negate its effects. Also cannot change its battle position. So it's actually not a bad card on the field. It can just 0 something out and negate it permanently. And it's, you know, it modifies attack, so you can do this like in damage step and make your opponent run into something and make them take a lot of damage. So yeah, that is the main deck, 40 cards. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the extra deck here. And in the extra deck, I have some other ideas I want to talk about as well. So for our first synchro here, we have Satellite Warrior. This is mainly to make with the Dragite and the Formula Synchron, because we normally make Dragite very, very easily in this deck, and we make Hulk as well. So if we exhaust the Dragite, we can use Hulk to summon out Formula, draw a card, then quick synchro into Satellite Warrior to pop 2 on top of everything else that we just resolved. So that is why I play the Satellite Warrior. This could be replaced for the Sword Soul Chen Ying, because that is a water, can be made very, very easily in this deck. And there are some ways to actually trigger Chen Ying's effect, outside of it just being an absolute house of a monster. You know, gaining attack, 100 attack for each banished card, and all your opponents losing 100 attack as well. Very, very strong card. But you can trigger it with Ice Barrier. You can trigger it with the Hulk during the opponent's turn, which is actually a really cool interaction, since a lot of times you'd be making Hulk to be able to make the Chen Ying anyways, because you can summon Minstrel and then synchro the Minstrel and the Megalo into the Chen Ying. And it's something I might do going forward, so I just wanted to put that out on the table, and it's a relatively cheap card to pick up. Then we have the one Ravenous Crocosaur, because we do make level 9s in here, you know, sometimes, not all the times, but very good interruption to be able to end on. And this card paired with, like, you know, Infantry and Marksman and Dragoons means we're plussing basically off of destroying our opponent's card. And if we discard, like, you know, Infantry and Marksman, we get to pop a card, then we get to pop 2 more cards because we discarded, you know, the Infantry and Marksman for this card's effect. And also drawing cards on summon is nice too. You can kind of treat it like a Charge Warrior. The one Dragite, again, for Dispel and Trap Negation. One Formula. This could be cut too if you're worried about it conflicting with the Ice Barrier. And that is it for the Synchros. Onto the links, I play one Link Karibo. The reason I play Link Karibo is because there are some hands where actually being able to link off your Prince and just get another water into the grave to resolve Moulin Glacia comes up more than you would think. So that's why I do play the Link Karibo. It's also sometimes just a free banished target off of the Prosperity. Halka Fibrax to be able to summon out our tuner extenders from the deck, like Diva, Minstrel, or Fishborg Launcher. And again, there's that synergy there with Chen Ying and Halka Fibrax. And we can tag this out into things like the Formula to go into the Satellite Warrior play. One Alacia, you know, very, very good core Mermail Link. This card is like, can be a bit of a roadblock for the opponent. Sometimes it forces them to have to deal with this card in a very specific way. Because if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's attack or card effect, you can send one water monster from your deck to the graveyard, then target one water monster in your grave. That is cost, sending the monster. Special summon it and defense. So if they destroy this card, and you activate the effect and they negate it, you can still send something like Infantry or Dragoons to still destroy something on their field, even if they negate the effect to revive. So like, that's a really cool thing you can do. You can also revive the same card that you send also. And then during the opponent's turn, quick effect, you can send a card from your hand to the graveyard to add a Mermail monster from your deck to your hand. So Another cool piece of synergy you can do with like Chen Ying, for example, if you have Alacia with Chen Ying up and you don't have Halqifibrax, you can actually use Alacia to pitch something like Ice Barrier if you happen to draw it, because drawing this card admittedly sometimes is not that great. You can pitch this to the graveyard and then use this engrave as a trap, quick effect banish it to search something, and then banish with Chen Ying. And then you also got the search off of your Alacia as well. So you get basically 2 searches there and a banish of a card on their field engrave. And then we play one Mastar Boy. Good for just resource management. Sometimes you actually need to link into this to get into Alacia, because you can't make Alacia with Halq or Anemone. So yeah, having a bridge sort of type card is very, very nice. Then we have 2 copies of the Marincess Coral Anemone. Very, very good card for the grind game to be able to revive things like Infantry, Diva, Prince, more importantly, out of the graveyard. And like I talked about earlier, you can also revive Minstrel to be able to trigger its effect when special summoned. So yeah, play 2 of those. Just because, again, it does come up more than once. 1 Gaios, very, very good Floodgate extra deck monster to have. Just generic rank 7. Well, I guess not generic, but good rank 7 in general. The 1 Bahamut Shark to be able to summon out Toad. 1 Dweller. Very, very good card. A lot of synergy in this deck, too, because if we detach Dragoons off this, we get to search, because it was sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect. And then one of the best rank 2s, probably one of the best rank 2s ever. The best rank 2. 2 totally awesome. Card's insane. We can make it very, very easily either through the Bahamut Shark or just through the Toad engine that we're playing. Omni Negate, resource management. We get to steal our opponent's cards. Very, very strong card. So really, really fond of it. And a couple other things I want to mention here too. The other cards you could play in here are things like Small World. I really haven't experimented too much with Small World. Right now I'm playing the Foolish Burial Goods and Prosperity, and I feel like I already have enough consistency as is, and I don't like the idea of having to banish potential extenders out of my hand to be able to search out cards I can get to already with certain cards I'm already playing in the main deck. Again, things like Ice Barrier or the Pot of Prosperity. So, that's a potential thing you could run Small World if you want. Works very, very well in this deck, because a lot of times the only thing that is matching is water. Like, let's say if you have Pike in your hand, Pike is a fish. You can go like Pike, reveal something like Lapis Dragon, and then go to like Teus, I think, because I don't think anything matches between like Teus and Lapis Dragon other than the fact that they're both waters. So yeah, I mean, that's something you could potentially do. But yeah, and also the Chen Ying and the extra. That's something I think I'm probably going to test more going forward. I always keep talking about the synergy, and every time I bring it up, I like it more and more. Yeah, that is going to do it for this deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions or anything, let me know down in the comment section below. This is a deck that I might play on my Rogue to High Rated series at some point as well. So if you guys want to see that, let me know down in the comment section below. And last but not least, a huge thank you to the Coldest for sponsoring today's video. Again, please guys, consider checking them out at the links below. And if you do end up buying something, I do greatly appreciate you supporting the channel, and I hope you enjoy your water bottle, whatever you decide to get off of their site. And if you want to see more of my content, click on one of the videos popping up on the bottom of the screen right now. And as always, Winter Kill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And like always, a huge shout out goes to our Divine Level channel members, and they are Tweeter0226, Ponystart, Cadillacs84, and Keith Scissors. Thank you guys so much, as always, for your extremely kind and generous support of this channel.